AEW just made a mistake, and it is emblematic of everything wrong with the company. On the January 15th, 2025 edition of AEW Dynamite, Jon Moxley versus Powerhouse Will Hobbs faced off for the AEW World Championship in a match that had seen a lot of backlash even before it aired. AEW fans, many of whom have been fans of the company for years, ever since the beginning, have been calling out one of the most annoying things about AEW over the past couple of months, that being the nonsensical storyline of Jon Moxley and the Death Riders. Once one of the most promising stories in AEW that could have seen the addition of a new character, or could have seen Jon Moxley tell an interesting story of lifting up some of the youth in AEW, has now devolved into one of the most rejected and, quite frankly, illogical angles that the company has ever produced. And this has more to do with a choice that AEW has made, and that choice is not to put the belt on Powerhouse Hobbs. AEW had a chance on Dynamite to do something that fans have been clamoring for, to do something that their core audience had been clamoring for, and that is pivot. Pivot away from this storyline that your core audience is rejecting. Pivot away from this storyline that lacks a lot of logic, and pivot towards something. One of the best things about AEW back in 2019 was that Tony Khan had a clear vision about what he wanted AEW to be. He understood exactly what he was going towards, and while fans didn't necessarily understand what the end would be, they saw the road. They saw the different paths that road could take, and that was part of what made AEW so great. You saw a path forward that was going to be fun, that was going to be intriguing, that engaged you. And the unfortunate part about all of this is Jon Moxley, at one point AEW's bright spot and AEW's savior, has somehow now turned into something that the core audience is rejecting. And as I said earlier, AEW had a chance to pivot during the match between Hobbs and Mox, have the belt put on Powerhouse Hobbs, something that could have been reminiscent of Lex Luger beating Hulk Hogan for the WCW Championship in 1997, a moment that stands as one of the craziest yet most brilliant acts of booking that WCW has done. It wasn't just hot-shotting the belt, hot potatoing, it wasn't any of that, but that specific piece of booking came with an understanding that you can only have heels on top for so long before fans get sick of it. And you can only have heels who basically do the exact same thing. You can only do that for so long before people get sick of it. And in 1997, WCW understood that. That is why they kind of gave the fans a reprieve from everything that was going on, and they gave Lex, at that time a babyface, the World Championship. And you didn't necessarily need a quote-unquote plan for Powerhouse Hobbs. Him winning the World Championship not only would have pivoted this story away from the Death Riders and allowed you to maybe put Mox in a match with Adam Copeland in a way that didn't involve your World Championship, which, by the way, has not been seen on your program for months, and not because of a good story they've been telling with the Death Riders, but instead because of this nonsensical, lost the plot storyline. And by not doing this, AEW has betrayed one of the core features of what made it great. Not just the fact that it doesn't seem like this storyline has a vision that is playing out before us, but the fact that Tony Khan has betrayed something that he promised to do. He promised to have his finger on the pulse of what people wanted, of what his fans wanted, of what the core AEW fan base wants. An alternative to WWE for sure, but an alternative that gives the fans what they want. And this isn't just about a heel going over. This is bigger than that. No one really cares about the Death Riders. You have relegated your world championship to something that is beyond an afterthought. Everything else on Dynamite this past week was amazing. It was arguably one of the best looking and best booked shows that AEW has produced as far as television goes in well over a year. Yet the main event and the ending of that main event especially left a bad taste in people's mouth that wasn't just getting heat on Mox, but instead it was go away heat for the fans. And by continuing this nonsensical story, by continuing this, they are sending a clear message. They don't care what you like. You like what they tell you to like. And the unfortunate part is that Tony betrayed the value of listening to the fans. And if there were ever a moment that you needed to pivot, if there was ever a moment for you to cut through all of the bad faith criticisms that do exist about the company. There are many people who have horrible takes about AEW, from the Eric Bischoffs to the Jim Cornette to the Disco Infernos. But we're not talking about them. We are talking about people who have been fans of your company ever since day one. We're talking about people who have rode for your company through thick and thin and defended the product, who are now telling you that this is not good. The people who spend money to go to your events, the people who spend money to fly to your events, the people who watch your show on a weekly basis told you that they no longer wanted to see this. This was go away heat. And instead, you not only had Moxley win, but you did an ending where Jon Moxley lays out Powerhouse Hobbs, breaks his leg apparently, and double down on everything that people have hated about this. Because once again, your championship, the gold standard of what professional wrestling is supposed to be, AEW is where the best wrestle, right? Your championship has not been seen and will not be seen on your product moving forward. You have a situation where Adam Copeland comes out for the save, but does it after Powerhouse Hobbs already gets his knee blown out. It makes no sense. And unfortunately, it seems like AEW and the booking committee have made that choice very clear. They rejected what the fans wanted. And this isn't a case of you need to always do what your fans want you to do, but it's more of a case of understand when to give your fans a bone. Understand when to throw a lifeline to your core audience that pays and watches your product. If there was ever a moment for AEW to do that and to pivot towards something that the fans wanted, it was this moment. It was Moxley versus Hobbs. However, they didn't. As far as what happens with the storyline, it could get better, but hey, I guess we'll see.